Hey, everybody. I had a conversation with a friend of mine last week, and she had been feeling like she just couldn't get a break. As soon as things started looking up, and as soon as she started to feel optimistic and that things were going to change for the better, something bad would happen, and she felt like she was back down to step one. So she had asked me to read her cards, which I did, and I wanted to share the reading. I'm not going to share the specifics of her situation or who she is, but I want to share what the reading offered. And it really talked about what we can all do when we're feeling hopeless, when we just feel like we can't get out of our own way, that we have bad luck. And how do we manage that? So in sharing this, I'm presenting it as though it's a reading for you if this is something that you need to hear right now, or to pass it on to somebody else that you care about who could use this information. I have my notes, so I'm going to be referring to them. The first card that came up was the Queen of Swords. Sword energy in the tarot is all about mental agility. It is somebody who is strategic, somebody who can go for it, who's very ambitious and goal-oriented and smart and savvy. What can happen when we have a lot of sword energy, we can stay in our minds instead of being able to tap into our emotions, tap into our vulnerability, and tap into our intuition. It's all about a balance. So these things are important as well. So it's great to be logical and analytical, but being able to really sense how you feel intuitively is really important on how to move forward. It's really about using both sides. Also, when we have a lot of sword energy and we are really in our minds, it can create a lot of overthinking. Overthinking, as we all know, is probably not very good for any of us. So to be careful not to overthink and to over-strategize and to overanalyze and to allow ourselves to soften up and be able to receive messages through our intuition and to how we feel. The second card that came up was the card of suffering. What spoke to me when I read this card was, if we are not able or willing to resolve some of our past, some of our trauma, our abuse, things that have happened to us, it's really difficult to move on. So we could be completely functioning in society, and it's not that our problems are right in front of us, but they're always back here someplace. And it's an elephant in the middle of the room that prevents us from living life wholly because we haven't dealt with it. So in these circumstances, it would be really wise to speak to somebody, if it's a friend, if it's a therapist, if it's your partner, to really resolve some of the trauma and the pain that you're living with every day and ignoring every day. The third card was wants versus responsibility. What do we want, and what are we responsible for? So obviously we can't just give up our responsibilities and just do whatever we want all the time, but we always have to make time for some joy. When we get very hooked into our responsibilities, it's very hard to see the joy in life, and that's sometimes a really conscious effort. So it can mean it's setting aside time to do things that we love to do. It could be cooking, it could be planning a vacation, it could be taking a walk through nature, a bubble bath. It doesn't have to be anything extreme. Not everybody has the resources to book, very extravagant vacations and travel around the world. But there's things that we can do in our everyday life that can bring us joy, that can help us feel joy and then feel like we have a little bit more bounce when bad things happen, or when disagreeable things happen, or when we are not pleased with current circumstances. We feel a little bit more optimistic because we are integrating joy in our lives. The next one was to be around positive people. So many of us have people in our lives that are not very positive, and we're not necessarily going to sever those relationships. What I would say is two things. Number one, to introduce positive people into your life so it can balance it out and we don't feel like we're always listening to negative feedback and making mountains out of molehills. Also, and this is something that I've learned through my own experience, be really thoughtful about who you share information with. You might have people in your life that you feel very close to, but they're known to be negative. When we share things with them, even though their intention is not to make us feel badly, that's where they're dialed up. They're dialed up to negativity. And what's going to happen is they're going to give us negative feedback, and they're going to give us a negative a slant on a situation, and you may, as I have, internalize that and make it your own idea. Again, really hard to bounce back from negative situations when we're being fed negative feedback and people who feel discouraged, people who are telling you it's never going to work out, people who feel the need to tell you every negative aspect of what could happen if we decide to do something different. So to really balance out some of those people with positive people, and again, be thoughtful about what you share with them. Find other people in your life that you can confide in, even while you're maintaining those other relationships. The next card that came up was the Karma card. And what that told me was that we do have a certain level of karma in our lives. I believe in manifestation. I believe in the steps that we can take to make things a reality. But the other side of that is there is a certain amount of karma that we're all living. It's a story that we're living, and it's difficult to negate that. So it's not saying to give up on your dreams and not manifest, but to accept that some things are the way that they are and they may not change. And what can we do to navigate within that situation? Some of us just simply weren't born to wealthy families. Some of us were, maybe born with a disability that was difficult for us when we were children. And we have to figure out a way to make things work in our everyday life with some of the things that we've been given that we would have maybe preferred not to have been given. And to again, just to navigate that and to manage that. The next card that came up was to really pay attention to what's happening and to accept that certain things are not going to change, not to bang your head up against a wall. And this is a little bit into the whole karma card, right? So it's not resisting certain things that are not going to change, beating yourself up, trying to change other people. Again, it's really about navigating with what is and what we can change. And this card was telling me to also accept that things are, in some circumstances, are not going to change, and to just be aware of that and not to waste all of your energy, so we feel stronger when life gives us things that we have to manage and we have to deal with. The next card was to take help when it's offered. Many of us, when we're feeling down and we're feeling sad and we're feeling depleted, we resist help when people come to us and say, I can comfort you. I have a similar experience. I have an insight into this experience because I had something similar happen to me or somebody that I know. And when we're feeling vulnerable, we may not want to share details and we may not want to get help because we feel exposed. What the cards would suggest and what I would suggest in reading the cards is to take the help. Any little bit of help that we can get is useful. And then when the tables turn and other people need our help, we can be there for them and we can be stronger because we've healed and we've gotten the help that we need. And the last, well, there's actually two. So the next card talked about being still. And what that meant for me was to really find time in your schedule where you can be alone and be still. If it's early morning before everybody else gets up, if it's late at night after everybody goes to sleep, if there's a little bit of time that you can grab during the day, grab it. This is the time to journal, to really hear your own voice. Journaling can be written, it could be audio, it could be video. There's so many things that we can do now on our phones, and just to get our thoughts out of our heads and to be able to look at it objectively and to see things in a new light, and it can help us get a new sense of direction. So when we're in something, it's very subjective, and we're constantly feeling like we're being hit by all these different circumstances. But for myself, writing things down, sometimes it's actually not as bad as it feels, and then it makes me feel like I can better manage it. And the other piece of that too is when we're alone, we can hear not only our own voices, but we all have body intelligence. So when we're alone, ask ourselves like how we feel about something and just sit still and wait for the answer. How does your body feel when you think about certain people, when you think about certain relationships, when you think about the work that you're doing, when you think about where you're living, when you think about your money situation, when you think about a big decision? How does your body feel? What is your body telling you? And again, this is the same thing from the beginning of the reading, to get out of your head and to get more into your intuition, to really feel what your body is suggesting that you do, and that gut feeling that can give us so much guidance. Another piece of being alone is asking our spirit guides what we could do. And I believe we all have spirit guides, and we can ask the question and we can get signs and we can get messages from the spirit giving us guidance how to move forward. But in order to do that, again, we have to be still, we have to be quiet. We can't be in the middle of doing a lot of other things, being around a lot of other people. This is our time to journal, to listen to our intuition, to listen to how our body feels, and to ask the question from our spirit and hear what that message is. This is our time to kind of pull it all together again, so we're stronger and we can withstand some of the things that are happening in our lives that just feel completely overwhelming. And all of these things make us stronger. And once we're stronger, we can go out there and we can make better decisions. We can feel better about the direction that we take because we're not so beaten down, and we start living more in our sovereignty. And I talk a lot about that, and I've talked about that in other videos and other blogs. Our sovereignty, our power, our personal power that we each have, and feeling strong like a tree in the ground, strong and upright, as opposed to feeling like we're being knocked around by life, by other people. And so we can evolve, we can experience life, and we can also see the good when we're not so exhausted. So this is the message that I had gotten from the cards. I hope it helps you. I hope that you're able to integrate this into your life. If you're going through a difficult time, please feel free to pass it on if you think somebody else should see this. And if you wouldn't mind supporting the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye-bye.